Sometimes, it's the smallest voice in the room that speaks the loudest. It was a warm afternoon in Los Angeles. Late spring. It's one of those days where the sun seems to rest just above your head. Not harsh, but gently present. In Sherman Oaks, a man was sitting on the edge of a couch, hands clasped together, heart pounding in his chest. Jonathan Roumie, the actor known worldwide for portraying Jesus in The Chosen. But this wasn't a film set. This wasn't scripted. This was family, and he was about to speak from his heart. Jonathan had been invited to speak to his family during a private gathering. Some relatives hadn't seen him since his career exploded. There were old stories to tell, new moments to share. He stood in the middle of the living room, nervous, vulnerable, surrounded by cousins, aunts, uncles, and the new generation. His nieces and nephews, sitting on the floor like school kids around a teacher. He took a deep breath. There was a time, he began, when I didn't know if I believed in anything anymore. Silence. I had no money. I had no direction. I had nothing. He paused, and then something happened. I surrendered. Another pause. More intense. Not to a plan, not to a career move, not to success. I surrendered to God. And everything changed. The room was still, then a small voice. Uncle Johnny. Everyone turned. It was his niece, Emma, just 6 years old, sitting cross-legged in front of him, curly hair pulled back into a loose ponytail, holding a crayon in her tiny hand. Yes, sweetheart. He smiled gently. She stood up, walked toward him, and said something that stopped the room cold. Jesus talks to me too. A murmur rippled through the adults. Jonathan knelt down, eye level with her. He does. What does he say to you? She looked at him, dead serious. He says you show people what he looks like, but I get to tell them what he feels like. The room fell into complete silence. You could hear the wind brushing against the window. Someone quietly put their drink down. Jonathan blinked. The words echoed in his mind. I get to tell them what he feels like. He felt his throat tighten, his eyes welled. Emma. That's beautiful. She nodded, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she sat back down, picked up her coloring book like nothing had happened, but everything had. Because in that moment, Jonathan felt something shift. Soft music intensifies, then slows, you see. There's something about the innocence of children. They don't care about status, or roles, or lighting, or fame. They just speak from the heart. And in that small, quiet moment, a child reminded a man known for portraying the Son of God that God doesn't need perfect lines to speak. He just needs open hearts. Brief pause in the days that followed. Jonathan couldn't stop thinking about what Emma said. He carried it with him to interviews. On set, in prayer, he started seeing his role differently. Less as a performance, more as a mission. He said to a friend later, I thought I was here to show people Jesus, but maybe I'm just here to remind them how he makes us feel. The friend replied, sometimes we spend so much time trying to be the message, we forget to feel it. That line stuck with him too, because sometimes we all forget. In the noise, the schedules, emails, the traffic, we forget the quiet whisper, the nudge in our spirit. The child in the room saying the truest thing we'll hear all year. It wasn't just a moment. It was a calling, Jonathan later shared this story on a podcast. He didn't mention Emma's name, but his voice cracked when he told it. Listeners felt it. Comments poured in. I cried. My daughter said something similar once that hit me in the soul. Children are closer to God than we are. One comment read, she spoke what theology books can't explain. That video has over 10 million views now and growing because truth resonates. It doesn't need fancy packaging. It just needs to be real. Voice softens. Emma didn't know she was going viral. She didn't know her words would reach across the globe. All she knew was Jesus talks to her. That's it. That's everything, because sometimes the most profound truth comes not from stages or scripts, From the mouth of a child, holding a crayon, coloring in the margins of eternity. Brief pause, you and I. We chase answers, we look for signs, we beg for purpose, and sometimes all we need to do is listen. Jonathan said that night he walked outside and looked up at the sky. Why her, Lord? Why speak through her? Said he didn't get an answer, but he got peace, like warm oil pouring over his soul, like a father saying, because the pure in heart see God, and maybe that's the whole point. Maybe we complicate things. Maybe faith isn't always about sermons, debates, or doctrine. Maybe it's sometimes just listening to the smallest voice, the one that isn't performing, the one that isn't proving, the one that isn't pretending. Just a child saying something so true, ... It makes the room go still. Pause. Fading music, so next time you wonder if God is speaking to you, ... Don't single quotes. Just look around. Look lower too. The floor where a child might be coloring, waiting to interrupt your life ... with truth, because that, my friend, will reach millions.